Welcome back, everybody, to the Beneath the Hat podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Nate Jackson. Alongside me, one of the co-hosts, Miss Alina Rangel.
Hey guys, so good to be back.
And then also, we have included this time the boss himself, Emilio Rangel. What's up, man?
What's up, guys?
Um, this is a new setup for us. We're really excited about this. We got video now. It's the first podcast that we have video, so we're super stoked about this. Hopefully, you guys all like the new setup, how it goes, how it sounds and looks, and we can hopefully start being able to do this more often. Y'all can to see all of our beautiful faces. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've even brought back one of our season 1 guests, actually first episode guests. So that's really neat. I don't know if Amelia wants to give him the good old introduction.
Run it back.
go ahead. But yeah, he was our first guest. And now he's our first guest that people can see. So it clicks the guy for the first. Clicks the guy for the first. But yeah, I'll just let Emilio have the dues of
Why all
being
the
able to
pressure on me?
introduce him.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you talk about photographers, but there's none like this one. The 3-time world champion, right here, Mr. Click Thompson.
What's going on, everybody? Back again. Excited to be with the whole crew. I mean, essentially, y'all are just family at this point. So, it's good to be back in the house. It's good to be this setup sweet. So it's cool to be seen. As they always say, it's better be seen than viewed. So we're doing good. Everything's good.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, heck, this is new to you, but it's new to us too. So I think we all here have just a hair jitters, but I think as we get into it, we'll get kind of through that. But yeah, last time, Click, we talked to you. You had 2 world title buckles, pretty much.
Yeah.
Now you added a third.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's up, man?
Man, it's I think winning back to back was a pretty cool accomplishment. Like when you think about winning it 3 times, it was, man, that there's it's hard to put that deal into words, man, just to be up there and for the 3rd time. And for me, I always try to remain humble, and you just never know what to expect. But it seemed like everybody else in the room knew what it was going to be, and they were like certified, so it was kind of like a duh. But I'm just thankful. It's exciting. Hopefully we can keep going, keep doing some more stuff. I think it's a cool opportunity to have that associated with you and a part of your resume, and it just allows me to do more, not just in my career, but it allows me to provide more opportunities for people to elevate their deals too. So it's I don't just win that deal. Everybody wins that are riding for the brand. So.
Oh yeah. Is this the buckle?
This
that
is
we have
not the
here?
buckle. The World Championship, my PRCA Photographer of the Year buckles, they usually stay in the cases, and they end up in, like, 2 of them are at my mom's house, and I have one at my house that I haven't, like, relocated yet. This is my NFR buckle from 2024 this past year. I always wore, and it's kind of been in stages. I wore when I shot the Steer Open Finals, I wore that buckle. And then when I got my first NFR buckle, I wore the hide off that for the last 3 years. And this 2024 was an interesting year. It was a stressful year, a challenging year. And to still finish it off strong and have a really good NFR, that was kind of like, okay, it's time to switch it out, and we can kind of retire that 2021 or 2022 buckle and rock the new one. So it's a new year, new me. And, it's shiny, so why not?
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
All the gold to show.
Oh, yeah. Talking about the NFR, we know you're a man of many outfits. What was the highlight?
Man, it was a good year for outfits. Just, I think my mindset had changed a little bit. I definitely wanted to get away from, I wanted to have some flashy stuff, but I wanted to definitely wear some stuff that I could break out again. I just wanted to, because I've worn some stuff, I'm like, I'm never wearing that again, ever. And that's cool. But like I said, man, as you get older too, you kind of want to wear stuff that's a little bit more timeless, a little bit more classy. So, I did better at just kind of mixing and matching things. I had a few companies that kind of sent me some jewelry to try out and try different stuff. So definitely we elevated the classiness. Like, I mean, I was super cool to have a tailor build me a suit for the awards banquet. So all that was custom, the shirt, the whole deal. And that was just a cool experience. So if you've never done that, hire someone to like make you clothes. Like the shirt I had was insane. Like I felt like a new person. The moment I slide that shirt on, I'm like, like it was my swag was out of control that day. So and you just look good, and it felt good to look good, and like we did a lot of cool stuff and mixed it up and mixed and matched a bunch of stuff. So it was a good year for the clothes. I think I set it off this year.
And your tailor is pretty well known, huh?
Yeah, shout out to my man Ty. Like it was crazy. He does some stuff for some NFL players, and then
You said WWE.
WE guys.
Yeah.
Like he just built the deal for Rey Mysterio, and actually my buddy Matt West I think is working with him now. So I'm helping. He's never done any Western stuff. He just made me a Western shirt. Like I didn't ask him to. I was like, man, I need to get some shirts made. And he's like, dude, you must have read my mind. He literally sends me a picture of this white Western shirt. It's like old school, real cotton.
Wow.
And like it's got my logo on the sleeve and everything. I'm like, this dude's legit. I mean, and it fits good. Like I wore it yesterday actually at an event. So he's killing it. So stay tuned. There might be some Click Thompson Western shirts or some line or something else. So
That'd be neat.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
You're putting up Patrick Mahomes numbers now. You said they got to start dressing like it.
oh yeah, we gotta. I mean, like they say, man. If I'm ever win the lottery or something, I won't tell anybody, but there will definitely be signs. So
Yeah. A lot of selvage.
Oh yeah, a lot of. Actually, I just got my brother on that life, so I'm like, listen, it's different out here. So I'll let you have a few pairs, like some of my extra ones, to get you started, but it's a different deal. I was actually just in a place called Black Blue in St. Paul. I just literally searched selvage in St. Paul, and I come in this deal, and there's selvage like everywhere, on every corner, everywhere you look, there's selvage. I think I spent like $350 on like socks and beanies. I didn't even buy anything.
Socks and beanies.
But I was like, I told a friend the other day, and she's like, "You're insane." I'm like, "Man, I'm too poor to buy cheap, man."
Love it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to add to the collection of cool stuff. I'm like reaching around the mic all funny, but I know you've already peeped at this, but
oh yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool here. First of all, I'm fired up about this crown rollback. I don't know why. Like I just probably shout out to Pendleton, but that's pretty slick. So what's Cody's last name?
Gooden.
Gooden. Shout out to Cody
Yeah.
Gooden, and shout out to the whole Double R crew. This
Cody
buckle's
Gooden.
pretty sweet.
Damn good buckles.
So like this is a cool little camera deal. That's slick. That's still cool.
When
man.
we saw you on it 3 times in a row, I was like, we got to do something special. I know it's not going to be as good as his gold one, but it'll be a good every day. And Cody, he did something fun. He did one for Colt Wrangler, right?
Yep.
And it was a TV with a little bucking horse on a spring. So that's kind of what we had in mind, but for a camera. And he did something totally different and ran with it. Cool little box camera.
Yeah, it's been a good stretch of me getting gifts. My buddy gave me it was his dad's that passed away, an old PRCA pen, and it's cool. Like I like that. I wear a turtle necklace that one of my buddies made, that because I always think it's good to you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, and this is a cool just a reminder. Like, and that's totally different. It'd be something you wouldn't expect, but I like that. That's a cool little piece. Now I gotta get me a double R buckle. That'll be the next thing. I'm gonna have to, I need to shape a few more hats and put some water out of her tent, and then I'll be official double R.
Be on the American Enthusiast page a little more.
Yeah, I know. I'm not messing with you on that deal. You got that Title 1.
Yeah, we cross our fingers every year now that we had such a good Abilene with you there. We want to make sure you're there every time.
Yeah, that was fun, and y'all hooked it up. I mean, let me sell prints there. It was, and honestly, y'all had the booth to be like all the cool creators, makers, whatever. People hung out at that booth. It was just a good time, whether you were buying a hat or not. It was that was the place to be. So
I told Amelia the cool thing was being the little sister early on, and I find these people on social media, and I'm like, oh, they're so cool, follow, and then they're all right in front of us wanting to hang out with us. I'm like, that's kind of even better. Maybe it's another milestone in a sense.
Yeah, I think that's just a testament to y'all's work, and I'm big on just customer service, and I know that if I send somebody to y'all's store, that one, it'll be appreciated that I recommended someone, but they'll also it'll be appreciation throughout the whole process, from the point of them walking in the door to the point of mentioning me, to the point of them even investing in buying a hat from you, to and they'll get taken care of. So I mean, I think that shows, and it swells, and you can see it through the people that hang around you, and I mean, that was the fruits of your labor. You could see it right there at the old Heritage.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. I mean, just like Alina said, getting to see all those people that we not necessarily fangirl over, but kind of look up to in
Yeah,
that kind of creative aspect, and them all just hanging out was really
yeah,
really cool. But
yeah,
speaking of being able to be around those people and network,
yeah.
being in your position that you are right now, I assume networking is the biggest deal, and I assume has been throughout your whole career,
Yeah.
not just rodeo. But how do you go about, building those relationships and networking throughout this industry, especially in rodeo?
I think for me, it's like people will use the words like networking or politicking but I'm big on, like you said, building relationships. Like the first clinic I ever did, I told all the people there, I said everything that you experience and everything that you receive from this is due to a relationship that I've built, cultivated, and things like that. And still, this industry, this space, Western culture is based on handshakes and horse trades, and it's about making relationships, and because essentially these are going to be the people that are going to be around you your entire life, or at least as long as you're in the space. So for me, it's not even, it's just what I would do anyway. So it's just, I like hanging out with my friends. I like doing stuff with my friends. I like being around cool people. I like to just sample people. So there's always something you can take from other people and learn, just how they live or things like that. So, um, but yeah, it's definitely your connections matter, and that's really with any field. But when you can, those can be friendships too. Then it's like it comes full circle, man. It's just like you want to support your friends, you want to, whatever they got going on. So I'll show up to and like especially at a rodeo, I still like watching a rodeo. I don't even need to be working it, but so I don't mind hanging out and just going to visit people. And you can ask the majority of my students or anybody, like if I like am rocking with you, I'll pop up at your deal that doesn't have anything to do with me and just hang out and say hey and support you however, even if I'm just watching in the crowd, and then I'll bounce and do my deal. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's just what I would naturally do. But it feels, I think initially when I first started, it was like, okay, how do I, it's building a brand, how do you know and being visible has always been kind of my deal. It's just like, how do you stay on people's minds? And part of that is just being visible, being there. Like we talked about Alina with her, the deal and the American deal, like that, you're visible. We know that, it's only going to be 10 minutes and Double R's going to say something. Hey, come check out our hats here. We got it. But, and that helps, you know, you know, reassert, that helps establish your brand. Like we know that more than likely Double R is going to have it. We know that if it's a cool rodeo, it's a good chance Click might be shooting it, right? So it's just part of what you do. So when people get used to seeing you, that becomes the expectation, and then you're just doing what you would normally do. You're not even working.
Heck yeah.
Mhm.
So the season's about to start full swing.
And then it never really stops. But I always, and January is always cool because I always like to have kind of a lull or kind of a moment where you kind of decompress, and usually that's the time where I ask myself, like, what is success? Like we won photographer of the year 3 times in a row. That's cool. But like as you know, the top of one mountain's the bottom of the next. So like what is the next mountain? What is the next challenge? And I found a lot of times it's just doing stuff like, what's the creative thing that spurs me, that gets me going? Like you see this old camera here, it was about changing and going a different direction. Sometimes I do stuff because I try to do hard stuff because I know other people are not going to take the hard road. So I'm like, just want to do it to kind of separate myself from other people. But, um, but yeah, like even if I'm not physically at a rodeo, like mentally, I'm always trying to plan for the next thing, or how do we build a new image. Like we talk about books, or we talk about gallery shows, or we talk about, you know, apparel stuff. Like these are all things that are churning in my head. So like definitely like part of success for me this year is like, how do I get that stuff in my head into action faster? Um, because we all have a lot of good ideas, but I think the thing that slows us down is we either hesitate to execute them or something like this. But like, even like coming in this room, like y'all are all fired up about this. It's like, dang, we probably, part of you's like, it might have been just the right time. We were ready to do it now, but a part of you's also like, man, we probably should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's always something I tell myself is like, man, how do I go from here to like actually physically doing it? Because every time, as I always plan stuff well, but every time if I just go, let's do it, it works out.
100%. I feel like that's the right mentality to have always.
Yep.
When you are not taking photos, is there anything that you like to do, like a different creative outlet maybe that you seek just to kind of keep going, keep flowing?
Man, I'm a pretty bad guitar and bass player, but you know, it's fun for me. Like I have, like if you came to the place and saw like my basses, you would think like I toured. Like why you got so many? And my mom hates it because my dad had a bunch of instruments, and like I think there was a bad relationship there because he would like sneak them in the house. It was like his like Xbox now, or like his gaming system now in comparison. Like, well, she's like, well, why do you need 12? You've only got two hands. Like you can just tune the other one back to that deal. But they all do for different things. They do different sounds. Like I only need one camera, but I've got like 6 or 7. So it's just, but they do different things. And when you get into the weeds of it, you can start to explain it. But, you know, music's super like influential. Like I think my whole life has a soundtrack to it. Like there's not a moment in the day that I can't play music that kind of coincides with my deal. But I like listening, collecting vinyls. Because that's another thing that's old and tangible. Like it's cool holding something in your hands that's older than you. Right. And especially if it still works, or if like, you know, if it's been taken care of.
Timeless.
You know, I thought about that years ago. I think Keith Mundy had said, you know, mentioned the hat being a family heirloom. And I had never thought about that. But like how that can go down years and years of your life. And this was your grandfather's hat that was, and how, and especially here in Texas, like people take so much pride in that. So, you know, that's even something that like I get into hats. Like I brought you guys a hat today and I'm like, dude, I almost want to buy this hat just to have it, to either give it to someone who, you know, needs a good one, or like, because this hat's insane for what it's supposed to be. I'm like, this is not a regular 40X, but yeah, like music, I'm trying to figure out what's the next creative thing. Like I have never been a really good painter, and I'm not even going to try and go down that realm. I'm just going to make a mess. So, but we thought about doing just some different type of photography stuff, maybe doing like tintypes and things like that.
Oh my goodness.
So
That
it's
would be
just,
so
I don't know
cool.
if I want to smell like oils and fluids and all kinds of stuff, but, and for me, like I want to get it, I always got to like develop it. And so maybe it's video outlets. I think I'll probably direct rather than shoot the video, because I think I have visual ideas in my head, but I'll just hire someone else to execute it better. But yeah, just playing music, like pretend like I'm actually in a band or something, or have that moment. Be a rock star for 30 minutes, because more than likely I'm supposed to be doing something else, but I picked up an instrument and that took me off into another deal. But yeah, definitely music, anything tied to music. And I'd like to eventually do something. I always thought about learning how to do bronze sculpture, but I don't even know where I would start on that deal. Because there's a lot of leather. Like, again, that's me going, well, there's a lot of leather workers. There's a lot of silversmiths. Like, you know what, I'm going to do something that nobody else does. That's probably really hard and really expensive to learn. But, so, if you see me making crappy bronze sculptures in the next year or two, just, they're not going to be that great, I promise you.
Put me down for one.
Yeah.
We're making music. Click's got to drop an album now.
Yeah.
If this podcast blows up, then the next one we get you on, you got to come and play.
I had thought about, especially now with there's so much music, I had thought about like quietly recording beats or producing stuff and never tell anybody about it until like one day I'm like, hey, I had to hand out some crappy pamphlet like, yo, I got a show. This is like, you got a show? What are you talking about? And then apparently I'm some, you know, I got 50 million streams on Spotify or something that, oh, I've heard this stuff. You're the dude from TikTok? I'm like, yeah, it's been me the whole time. So,
Up until there's a SoundCloud update recommended for you,
Yeah.
your friend, Click Thompson. And that's just a bunch of
I don't
beats.
even know. It would definitely be like a different name, or it would be a DJ or like some one word deal that's like, I don't know.
Click, but just like a group of people click.
Oh,
with
yeah.
a QUE.
Yeah.
It could.
Click
Ideas.
beats.
I thought about like, I remember, so like I saw The Weeknd before he had merch. Like the mixtapes were out, like he hadn't even re-released it as the trilogy. And we come out that deal, and I just remembered like you still barely knew what he looked like. Like it's like that's where I like to live in that realm. Like how can I kind of stay a little bit anonymous, and then but you know, with anything, if you do it long enough, you get better, and the better you get at it, the more they're gonna ask you to do it. So
With anything, you're gonna get the best stuff to do it though. Like even if you start doing bronze sculptures, I'm gonna be like, oh, what is this thing that you got? It's gonna be like the best bronze sculpture making tool ever.
oh yeah, it'll be. Adult hobbies are expensive.
Yeah.
And like there's no Because in your head you're like, well, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it, right? It's like if I'm going to start printing these large art prints, they're going to be on the nicest paper that are museum quality, and I got to have these $500 frames that they got to be heavy, and like if you put them on a regular wall, it'll tear your whole wall down. Like it's got to be over the top. That's just, I mean, how you do it.
You got to do it the right way.
Yeah.
It's funny because the other day I took a couple things to get framed at local Hobby Lobby or whatever, and they were asking me what kind of glass I wanted, and they had the regular one and then the museum, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it right. How much is the museum? They told me, and I was like, you know what? I don't need that. Just get the regular glass.
The glass works really well,
You're like, don't even put glass on it.
Right.
Just put the frame on it.
We don't need glass. It's just gonna collect dust anyway.
Buy once, cry once, right?
Buy once, cry once, man. That's clothes, like equipment, especially anything that you do for work. Like my dad said it years ago, you're too poor to buy cheap. And you have to tell yourself you can use it again. So yeah,
I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with you talked about some people don't want to take the hard working road because they think this lazy road's easier.
Okay.
But in reality, let's say you have to bring in these 4 buckets. And the lazy guy's going to start with the first bucket closest to him. But the hardworking guy's going to go grab the furthest bucket. So the rest of the buckets are just that much easier.
Yeah.
It's like you said, if you go out and do the work, the rest of the work's just going to be easy.
Yeah, man. I've always said that like obstacles are in the way are there for the people who don't want it hard enough. And like that, like you said with the buckets, you got to work smarter. I actually sent a text message in the middle of the night, like at midnight, to like a bunch of young photographers or just new photographers that I've worked with. And first of all, I knew it would have impact because it was a long text. 2, it was like midnight. So they're like, why is Click sending me a text at midnight? Like what's going on? Like, and like, it was funny to hear the response because they're like, dude, you got people scared, right? And the very last thing I was because I think when people come into the Western space, especially like new photographers or people who shoot rodeo, that like they're in this honeymoon stage. Like, man, it's fun. Like it's awesome. And then everyone wants to be a cowboy till it's time to be a cowboy. And when you have to really start negotiating and trying to figure out how you're going to make money, and like, yes, there's going to be people that undercut you, and yes, there's going to be people that don't want you to succeed. And like, so I kind of wanted to present that to them, give them that reality check. And at the very end of the text message, I said, also be patient. And there are no shortcuts, because shortcuts don't get you to where you're going. Like, there are so many moments that like I have been successful because I've worked harder than the next person, or like I've accepted that. A lot of times when I make the agreement with myself that I'm going to do something, and like, so some people say, well, you dance with the devil, but for me, if I make an agreement, like this is what we're going to do, we're going. Like, there is no, until the boat sinks, until we drown, until the deal blows up, we're going. Like, and until we can't walk no more, we're going. And yes, it's going to suck, but you know what? We understood that when we signed the deal. So, and a lot of people are always looking for, man, what's the easy way out? Well, that bucket's the closest, so I'm gonna grab that one. Well, what about the other 3 that are forever away from you? You didn't think about that. Well, I want to get the one down there, and then it gets better. It gets easier each way. So, yeah, I think everyone just needs especially the younger generation, they just need a little bit more grit. But they have to be patient, because even grit takes time to develop. So you got to stay hooked.
Oh, yeah.
I was about to go to sleep, and I'm like, oh, God, what did I do? And I see like 20 other people, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in.
You're in. Like, I think, too, like I told some people, that message was for everyone, but it's not to everyone.
Yeah.
So, like, same thing with like the Old and the New Testament. Like, everything in the Old Testament may not necessarily be directed towards you, but that information is still valuable.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with like, but as my dad would say, if you throw a rock at a group of dogs, the only one that barks is the one you hit. So if you feel like I stepped on your toes, if you feel like I was talking about you, if you're a little uneasy, then I am talking to you. And this is your opportunity to get lined out and like, and realize, okay, maybe I need to not stray from the path.
Yep.
I love that. That's awesome.
Well, and you're a mentor to a lot of young photographers in the space and in the industry, where I feel like all of those people were fortunate to be able to learn from somebody like you. But you yourself have a lot of wisdom. You
Yeah.
could just be having a conversation with you, and you're just
Yeah.
gonna pull out some quote
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
needs to be in a
Yeah.
book. But one thing I was thinking about, post your three-peat and everything was you've been doing this for so long, and then you've three-peated. So through those, especially the successful times, the 1, 2, 3 of the buckles, what are some lessons that you've learned through all of the success that not many people have reached or will ever reach?
I think with, like they would say, more money, more problems. I think even as you have success, some of the issues that you face when you first start, they will still happen now. Like the scale may just be bigger. Like you may have to deal with just more issues of working with people. Like there's always, and for me, as like going back to my wisdom, there's, especially in our space, there's a lot of things we do kind of an old school way or in a traditional way. So there's a lot of opportunities to educate people. And you have to educate your clients, but you have to be passionate and be like, hey man, this is why this costs money, or this is why I cost this much, or why, you can use this photo for your flyer, but I'm going to need more money if you're going to put it on a truck that you drive 20,000 miles all over the country, right? There's a different structure behind it. But I think too, I know I'm passionate about the game, and like sometimes networking can be the game, or sometimes positioning is the game. Like, okay, where do I need to be? Like I always look at, like when I first started, I remember sitting in that first photographers meeting, and I was learning who the players were. Like I didn't say a word, and I just looked around the room. I looked to see what the issues were, or what issues people maybe had. So okay, I'm learning about that, but then I'm also learning who the players are, because the thing people forget is like while you're trying to get to the top, someone else is. And if you don't know first of all, you got to figure out who's up there, and then you got to figure out who else is trying to get up there, because there could always be someone who's just behind your heels that's going to sweep your legs out from under you. So if you kind of are always, I like the strategy of it. Like I maybe look at it different than some people do, but yeah, like everyone's trying to be successful, and I'm not trying to prevent someone else from having success, but understanding who's around you and what people are trying to do. So and so that's why a lot of times to avoid some issues, I try to go be different. I try to can always do it the right way, but do it my right way.
Yeah.
And put my spin on it. I learned a long time ago that, well, the way I used to be was I'd show up to the rodeo and I wanted to be the baddest dude in the deal. I wanted to choke slam everybody. Nobody else in the rodeo has a clue this competition's happening. It's all in my head, like who can get like the rankest picture. And like sometimes it's fun to do it with someone, like, okay, we'll make a challenge, who can get the best of someone, right? But yeah, and then one day it was like, nobody can be a better version of you than you.
Yeah.
So I knew even if I was in a room with 20 other photographers, I was still going to have my own unique spin on whatever I did. But I just had to make sure that I was, being technically, I was always being true to myself and being creative in that way. And I think that helped avoid a lot of the problems that people face. And I even tell people, a lot of the problems people have, I don't have. Now, I'm sure I can be scary and intimidating, and I show up, but I'm, as anyone knows me, I'm a pretty likable guy and a teddy bear. But I think sometimes people have to think about and read the room, and they can help them kind of avoid and navigate some of the problems. But I also tell people all the time, especially young people in general, like make mistakes, fail, do it wrong. Not necessarily on purpose. I don't want you to break the law and then like derail your deal or throw a monkey wrench in your whole process. But I'm like, it's okay to make a mistake, man, because then you need that experience to to grow. Like even me working with Alina, I'll guide Alina, but I'm not going to tell her the way I did it, because maybe maybe she'll do it more efficiently than I did. And I'm like, okay, I can use that. And I tell people all the time, I'm for sure stealing that, just so like you might see your picture 2 months from now, but I took it. Hey, just for the record, sometimes a younger generation just knows how to do it. Does how to do it better. I'm an old man sometimes, dude. I've taken some selfies and they look atrocious. I'm like, what am I doing right now?
The Facebook mom
Oh,
selfies.
bro, like the blurry, like what happened just now? But that's why I'm like, you know what, just have a youngin handle it and hold it down for you. So I mean, embrace your uncle status.
But the neat thing, I think I can think on plenty of times where you kind of watched me do something and I'd hear you giggle or something and you correct me. And like now I think about like I'll do it correctly, or like now I'm in the habit of, oh, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And I can think back on my mistakes and I'm like, oh, like why did I even do that?
Yeah.
Or so on. I also remember a really neat story you told me one time that was like, I guess you just have the passion to teach, and you've told me that before, but it was like an old story about those who plant trees that they won't be able to. What is it?
Plant the trees. Well, let's talk about what is success, but like plant the trees to which the shade you'll never sit under, and it's talking about like leaving a legacy and but yeah, like I think now I have a passion to teach or a passion to give something. Like I found myself on either in front of a camera, in front of a mic quite frequently, so it's like always have something to say. And if you can, if I can give you some insight that allows you to do it longer or be around longer or have some more success, then effectively I have planted a seed that maybe I won't live long enough for Alina's grandkids to freaking kill it, but maybe a piece of advice I gave her will go on through the line. And Double R might be this crazy high fashion hat deal in 60 years, and he might be gone, but he already planted the seeds and planted the trees, and will sustain not only his family but other people's families, and he'll never see that, but he created that planted those trees to make that possible. So and it's selfless too, to like, I'm not gonna see the fruits of my labor, but I know that if I do it right, they'll still be there.
It's neat that you're at the top and you don't gatekeep. Like I think sometimes to some extent like gatekeeping kills, like things die out because people aren't sharing how you can do this. But you're on top of like knowing that you're the best. You're not worried, oh, if I teach this, they're gonna like just snatch my idea. Like you're like, whatever, like this is how I do this, and you're gonna do it your own way.
My buddy Odin, shout out to Odin, he does leather work and all that stuff. He said one day you're gonna suck at your job, so you have to figure out ways to continue to add value. I'm not gonna be. I mean, there's some. I like to say I'm like top 3 in the deal. Some days I'm not the best. Like I can make a turd photo tomorrow. It is what it is, right? But yeah, like don't be threatened of other people's success. I always talk about like when you go to a festival, musicians, they play their set and then they go watch everybody else play, or they go watch their buddies play. I'm like, that's the way creative should be, because like you can be inspired by someone who does like something completely different from what you do.
Yeah.
And that energy, that positive energy, that encouragement, like man, that's what gets people fired up to go see somebody, hey man, like I like what you're doing, like keep going. That kind of stuff just fires people up. And yeah, it's a better way to live life. Like I will gatekeep if it's an opportunity for someone to like rediscover something. So sometimes I'm like, and I don't want you're not me, so I don't want you to try and do it my way. Like, hey, here's what could happen. Figure out what works for you, and then I'll help you the best we can there. So yeah, I mean, it's better to share.
Yeah, the willingness to teach is awesome, because I mean, I was a freshman in college when I emailed you, but I mean, there was plenty of other people that I'm like, hey, like if you've got time, like I'd love to just shadow or so on, and people would say no. So it's just neat that you're willing to open doors.
I think too, like just sending that email you've already done more than easily 90% of people. Like I heard this guy saying it's the funniest line ever. It's like this dude, he was talking about some guy. He said, you got just as much time in the day as Michael Jackson, and you chose to be nobody. And you're like, well, when you look at it that way, you're like, dang, like I could be great too. I just chose to not be. Like, because at this point, you can do whatever you want. Like you can make up a job. I'm gonna have a grilled cheese, food truck franchise. There ain't nobody here to stop you. Is all you got to do is get the permits, make a good grilled cheese, and have some trucks, and you're rocking and rolling, right? Or I'm going to be a social media marketer. 10 years ago, I'm like, well, you're going to do what? Like social media wasn't what it was today, right? So anybody now can pick up a camera. You know, it's a little harder to start a hat store, but there's people trying it and giving it. And that's a harder route than a lot of things trying to do, because the hat world is a whole nother complex deal. Like, you got to know your stuff, and you got to know, and you got to have relationships so you can get bodies and all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole nother animal in itself. But the reality is, you know, either you can choose to be great or you can choose to be regular.
Yeah.
Which is okay too. But, you know, don't be mad at someone else who chose to be great when you had the same opportunity.
True.
Yeah.
We talked about, you said sometimes people think that you're not intimidating, but they think you, like, I think it's intimidating to approach you. But, I mean, I think you have such an approachableness. It's like Alina shared, that you were real quick to help her out, and you kind of took her under your wing, and she kind of worked with you some, and still, I mean, if there's ever a show that you need help, you're real quick to reach out to the students that kind of you've shared information with.
Yeah.
And I guess where I'm getting with that is you're so approachable, and just so easygoing, and I feel like a lot of people that have had success get away from that. And I heard Leon Coffey say one time, and it's just like, why wouldn't I give this fan, like, why wouldn't I give them the 2 minutes that they just wanted to share with me? You know, it's like, it means almost nothing to me, but it means everything to them. So
1,000,000%. I was doing years ago, I was shooting the PPR finals, and sometimes we do like some of the satellite events like bull tours and stuff like that, or maybe we have a sponsored dinner and we take pictures there. And I remember this one lady, she was like a librarian, and she walked up to me and we were talking about, like, that was the first year I realized how cool what I was to other people. And like, literally, we just talked for like 5 minutes, and I'm not gonna say it particularly that changed her life, but I know for sure that like 5 minutes can change someone's life. Like, you can redirect someone's whole trajectory. You can redirect. And for me, or for like, talking takes a little longer to do it. Like, small moments can change people's lives. Like, I always talk about, like, rodeo has a bit of the nostalgia of like baseball, but baseball is unique in the way, like, a guy can be practicing with his teammate and he can throw a baseball to a kid in the crowd and change that kid's life literally in 2 seconds, right? Because he's like, that kid's like, I'm gonna be a baseball player that fast, right? And we don't necessarily have a lot of stuff like that, but it could be 5 minutes, it could be literally a baseball pass. You can change a kid. So, like, I mean, it may not be, it's just time to me, but, you know, and I always gravitate like her, like, any kid or young person that wants to grow, dude, I'm all about it. Like, come on, or I'll, like, and I'm sometimes bad about getting back to people, but I'm like, hey man, or I'll call you at some weird, or I'll send a text at midnight and be like, hey man, here's the deal, or here's how I can help this person, man. And it took me 20 minutes to type it up, or maybe longer, because when I get in the weeds, I wasn't drinking or anything. I just felt some type of way that night. I'm like, you know what? It's time to go live and tell some people. You know.
I sent you a super formal email. Hello, Mr. Thompson, so and so on, and he DMs me on Instagram. Hey girl, got your email.
Because like, the funny thing about Alina was, like, it took me about 2 years to get her to stop talking to me like we had never met before. Like, because once we met, we were like, we're good. I'm like, you can, like, I appreciate you being respectful. Like, that's the one thing that Alina has always been respectful and gracious. But like, I'm like, we cool, bro. Like, you can relax. The Mr. Thompson's a lot. Like, I'm not that old. Like, what are we doing right now? You can say my homie or bestie or whatever you want to go with. But oh yeah, I've been there where you send that super formal email, and I've even got crap for him. Like, why are you sending me this? I'm like, because I don't know who. I'm like, I'm sending you an invoice. I don't know who you're gonna forward this to. I'm not gonna be like, hey, run me my check. I'm not gonna do that. You know. So, but yeah, she's been awesome. Shout out to Carla too. She's hiding in the corner. She's a ride or die too.
Yeah.
But I think it's really truthful to what you said about how just small moments can change somebody's lives. I guess my little moment with that was the first time I went into Double R and Emilio was there shaping. I had this crappy hat that I got, but I didn't know anything about hats. I didn't know, who Emilio was, what Double R was. I just heard, from the grapevine, this is the place to go. And he could have turned me away. He didn't. He stuck with me and helped me out. And just that personality kept me coming back and grew my interest to now I'm doing this for a living, beside him, which is pretty crazy to me. And there's so many opportunities, I feel like, for people in those positions to do something kind to somebody who looks up to them, that they might not see it in the moment, but it'll grow into something. I was at Rodeo Houston not that long ago. I guess it was about 2 years ago. And I was coming down one of the escalators, and this little kid who you could kind of tell had never been to a rodeo before or anything like that. I was just there, hanging out, and I had some stuff to do, and he asked me, he said, "Excuse me, are you a real cowboy?" And I didn't know how to answer that because, I mean, in the industry, it's kind of, really frowned upon. And I just told him some days I try to be, and just, the way his face lit up, hopefully he's out there and kind of pursue something like that. But, yeah, props to Emilio for, lighting my fire to do what I do. But like you said, I think there's something to be able to inspire somebody like that. And I think a big part of that is authenticity. I think the biggest thing to me about where you are is people know Click Thompson, just by the name or when you see you. So what are some what are some keys to being authentic, and what are some things that you look at to just be you?
Dang, that's a good question. I think, and it's funny too, I always tell people, especially when like they come to clinics or they meet me the first time, like I always say, man, I hope I'm as advertised. And I do have a little bit of this Batman Bruce Wayne thing in my head of like, I'm Click today, and then I'm Chris the other day. That's my Starbucks name for anybody that didn't know what my real name was. But so I think finding comfortability in who you are goes a long way into like just it there's so much like to what you wear, to how you move, to is you have to, and that's like I talk about anything, you got to fix home first before you can do anything. If your relationship's kind of in turmoil, maybe there's something wrong with you, right? Before you even decide to start a relationship, like, what, am I a dateable person, right? You gotta, or am I in a place to date? Like, one of the funny things I learned, my buddy told me this, and we use it as a pickup line, is ask a girl on a scale of 1 to 10, how available are you? The question is, what is 10 available? Is 0 available, right? And so it's a good way to break the ice, but that's the thing you have to ask yourself sometimes. Like, I mean, am I available for whatever is to come in life? Am I available for this? Am I mentally in a space for it? And then once you understand that and you understand yourself, then you can be authentic, then you can be real, then you can feel comfortable when you say, no, I'm not going to do that, because that's goes against your character, and it goes against who you actually are. But yeah, like, I mean, the one thing, my tagline of Chase Joy has been running all over the country right now, but I think that is the truth. I mean, it's just how I try to approach every day. I mean, it's awesome for me that no day is really the same, and I love I don't get buckles every day. Like, this is awesome. Like, or like the pen I got yesterday. Like, and it was funny, the guy who gave me that pen yesterday, like, we worked together. He's part owner and manager of Fort Worth Camera, and he's like, I got this thing. It may not mean anything. Right, and I had no clue, like, what's he about to give me? Is it gonna, maybe it's some goofy little gag gift. And I'm always looking for like old PRCA stuff, and he hands me this pen, and it's like dirty and stuff. I'm like, holy crap! Like, that was big. Like, and it's literally a pen. Like, it's not, but like any person who's a member of the association or like likes that old stuff would freak out, like, to have that or whatever. And I'm like, dude, that's pretty awesome. He's like, and it was his dad's. Like, first of all, he asked me to shoot his wedding with his dad's camera. That was nuts. And then to hand me this pen, I'm like, was your dad a member, or how did he even get this thing, right? So, and that pen's probably older than me, who knows? So, but yeah, like, those little things is crazy. I don't know what the original question is, but yeah, be authentic to that. Love who you are. But yeah, that, I got a question.
What's up?
To the boss man over here. Do you find yourself crying in a corner, like, when you take them? Because I know you probably do it every now and then, or maybe it's who you are, but like when you just look back on what you've built. I mean, it's kind of insane.
Very insane.
I just driving to do the podcast with Crockett, just so many like memories of how the store started, which I'm not saying we're anything, we're still growing, but just all the days in the shop of just boredom, not a single customer. We're just roping the cowboy toy
Yeah.
and drinking a beer with my buddies just because they happen to stop in, and just the calm before the storm, waiting
Yeah.
for it to happen. But when it happened, and we're so thankful that we were able to hire the help and not even hire the help. Just I mean, we were blessed with the help. Like they showed up when the time was right, and man, it's just like you showed up with an umbrella at the Heritage. Nobody else had an umbrella. You had it, and you were helping us
Oh yeah, who needs an umbrella,
helping
man?
us
No.
take the water out of the tent, and just it was crazy. It was just
It was
It's just-
funny. I was so fired up to do that too. I don't know why. I was like, I know how I can help. You know, it was just, but and I'd have done that all day long, right? Because like, it's like if you homies, if you family, if we friends, I'd have sat there and pushed them puddles out of the top of that tent, even when it wasn't raining no more. Like I just,
like that's when I know it's like we're not even like it's not a, what do you call it? It's not an acquaintance relationship. This is
Yeah.
like a family relationship now.
Yeah.
It's you were there when you were needed, and it wasn't that you were getting paid to be there. It wasn't that you had an obligation to be there. It's just because you gave us your heart that day, and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna hang out with them, and we're gonna go here all day, and we're gonna go at it. And it was really neat, and we just, that buckle's just a small appreciation to that, and just your continued success on where you're going. And but yeah, I mean,
sweet. Be jealous. Everyone be jealous.
I
Yeah.
think the coolest thing about the store is just the opportunity to meet people like yourself and just build relationships. That's what the store's foundation is building relationships with every customer, giving that customer their 15, 30 minutes of just them time. Because I mean, this world happens so fast. You know, it's like sometimes they just want somebody to talk to, and that's what we are.
And that can change a life and a trajectory of where somebody's going to go. You know, I experienced that firsthand. And I think, like you said, all the days where there was nobody in there and you were just, you know, sitting on your hands,
Yeah.
the fact that you never got sour or distraught or anything like that and kept it going, it's a test to a lot of what you've built and what legacy that you're leaving for me, SB, everybody else to follow behind. And I think, like Click said about planting the seed, I think you've planted an amazing seed for our company and I think the industry. I think there's a lot of people out there who are able to plant that seed and let it kind of, you know, snowball. Click, you're one of them. Hopefully I can be one of them, you know, in the future. But I think that's really important for anybody, not just somebody in that platform and position of power or influence, but you know, if somebody comes up to Click, you know, and they want to plant that seed to where Click's always going to remember them, you know, that kind of deal. I think it's really important for people in general and in this industry specifically to try to plant that seed of kindness and that attitude to, you know, that family atmosphere. I think it's really important.
For sure.
I always think it's cool because I feel like I told my brother not long ago, and maybe he didn't take it for anything like heartfelt, but I was like, I kind of admire the way you go about business. Just like sometimes he has to play good cop, bad cop, so on, whatever. Like it's neat, and I feel like maybe to some extent, just the way I am, if someone had said something like, "Oh, well, maybe don't do that," like I'd have thought about it so hard it'd tore me up, but. I mean, people give opinions all the time, and Amelia kept going and kept doing his thing, and if he'd have listened to him, he wouldn't be where he's at. Like, I mean, as a kid, of course, like, I'm, like, so proud of my brother. As I say a kid, a teenager, I'm, like, talking about my brother all the time to the point of people being like, we get it. He has a cowboy hat store. But now it's kind of cool because those same people are like, we get it. Pipe it down. I'm selling the people they think are cool hats, or, like, the people that they think are cool are following us. So it's kind of just a neat deal. And even to add on to what Emilio said, I think that you helping us at the Heritage when we were having trouble was a neat realization of, oh, Click's family. Because just the other day my dad was like, how much do y'all pay him to say nice things about y'all? How much do y'all pay him to come hang out at the store? We're like, no, he just likes us, I guess.
And not that you don't like I'm not I don't say that with like anything bad. I'm just saying like because you almost deserve to get paid with how much you help out, and then but it's not that. I don't know. It's just
No, Dad was being silly. He watched that podcast clip, and he's like, how much did it cost for him to say that about you? I'm like,
I think, well, one, compensation isn't always money.
Yeah.
Like I think, and you've probably heard it, the most selfish thing you can do is do something for somebody else. And because it makes you feel good, it lights you on fire, and like happy to do it. Like, man, like y'all have a store, y'all have a family, y'all have people that you can hang at that store all day long. And I've been to places that are like that, and I've seen them change, and I've been to places that aren't like that. And if you got a place you can hang out all day, yeah, maybe we'll buy a hat every now and then, but helping hand, you're just a part of the deal. Yeah, we were just part of the deal, man. Like, yeah, I mean, and I think that's just naturally the culture too. Like, if you see someone who needs help, you don't just sit there on your hands like, oh, hey, we're all getting wet. How can I keep some of these people from not getting wet? Or,
yeah.
Maybe there's someone who has no clue who I am, and they're like, man, that Double R crew, they're on it. They got a guy pushing the water out of the tent, whatever. I'm buying hats from them from now on because they're always prepared for whatever, not knowing who I am and what I do, right? And that's the cool thing, and I think it's easy how it's to remain humble. Like, you go down the street, and there's somebody that know who you are.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I thought it was just every time you come down, I'm blown away because, I mean, you live next to the hat shop Mecca. Like, there's so many places to go, and you drive the 2 hours to come see us and hang out. And I mean, we that's why we'll go out to eat and enjoy it, or we'll do something, because it's like we're gonna make sure it was worth it for him. Because I mean, we really admire you, and we appreciate you coming down and always taking the time to come see us and letting us shape on your hats, and I think it's really neat.
I think too, like you said, let me, like, I think y'all enjoy shaping hats, right? Like, or you appreciate a good hat. Like, I can bring some weird stuff. Like, I'm running out of stuff y'all haven't seen now, so I don't know what I'm gonna have to bring to the store next, right? I got to buy more hats so they can shape them stuff. But it goes back to you appreciating that. Like, I think if you feel appreciated, you'll go through a wall for somebody, man. Like, and just you feel appreciated, cool. I'll drive 3 hours to get my hat tuned on because I know that, again, I'm going to feel appreciated. That's enough.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry.
That's enough, man. So hey, don't cry. These cameras are pretty good. They'll see it.
Yeah.
I know we'll have to leave soon. Tell us about, I told you this morning to bring some knickknacks or things that you thought were special to you. Tell us about what's on the table. Or in front of the table.
I left some stuff. I mentioned that I actually had one of my photography of the year buckles packed, but I ended up leaving my duffel with it. But like you saw, my NFR buckle from this past year, we're in the process, the early stages of working on a book. Like, I think I'll do like some small stuff to try to have something for Heritage, but I think we're going to do a bigger one. The top one is from my buddy Ted Forbes. I actually just saw him yesterday. He just released that book, and which is one of the things I always do is I talk about consumption. And a lot of times what you consume will influence you later subconsciously. So say if you're a musician, if you only listen to country music, when you go to make your music, it's going to be country music. But if you listen to Charlie Crockett and Drake and then, some French artists from over here and then Billie Eilish and then you listen to George Strait and now you've got all those palettes and paintbrushes to use when you make your own music. So then it allows to be more authentically used. So a lot of times I find myself looking at different pictures, imagery, how people shoot. So like Ted Forbes' books on top, my buddy Ivan, who does a lot of his black cowboy stuff, that's his book following. Then this book down there is I can't remember what it's called, but it's from the set of Dune on the last two movies they shot. And one of I think it was their set photographer, he just made like a whole deal of all the images from that he just taken, and they're different and they got different stuff. But like as I look for it, like I'm subconsciously pulling images, or maybe an image in that book will influence how I shoot something later. So that's kind of cool. The back number that says 639, so 639 is kind of my number. Um, when I worked at a theme park called Busch Gardens, we all the photography people, we were under 630. So like our manager was 630, and then we would go down based on the different areas in the park you were. Well, they found out that I could tech like computers and cameras and stuff like that. So if they needed me specifically, they would go with 639. Well, fun fact about that, before they went to that radio code, we all went to like a little deli shop, and they were getting ready to go out of business, and there's a sandwich called the Captain Chris, and it was $6.39. And I asked them, because it was the last one, they couldn't make it anymore. I asked them if I could get the deal, and I don't know where that piece of paper is now, but so that's how the radio code number 639 started. Well, then I worked there, and I was 639. Even like my sister-in-law now, I think she still has me saved in the phone as 639 because she worked at the park too. Well, I leave, and then over the period of time, I start seeing the number everywhere. Like, and I have a whole catalog of like, just random times when I see it. Like, I'll look at my GPS and it's 639 miles, or a guy bucks off a bull at 6 seconds, 6.39 seconds, or or like, I remember this was from Red Bluff the year before. Stetson Wright's in front of me. I said, "Hey, turn around." Sure enough, he's wearing 639. That's his back number. Wow. Like, and I would see it on all kinds of different places. Well, behind the scenes, I've always liked Greek, Roman, medieval stuff. Like, I just like those time periods about stories and that legacy, and that's how you live on. Well, I was like, man, like it could be the worst Egyptian movie ever, and I'll still watch it because I just like that period of time, which it's very much cowboy culture. Like, we live and survive through our stories and legacies and things like that. Well, randomly, I'm just like, I just Google, thinking of the Bible, let's just Google chapter 6 verses 3 through 9. First thing comes up, Romans 6 verses 3 through 9. It talks about the baptism and essentially how as we get baptized, we are like Jesus and things like that. So, and still to this day, I see 639 all over the place. And actually, no one was 639 last year, Red Bluff, so that's where that back number came. But I could show you a whole folder of Kobe Bryant played 639 games wearing the number 24.
Wow.
Like, those all kinds of freaky stuff that I've seen. Like, I was working on my tax documents. There's an ad in the corner, and it was legit $639 or whatever. Like, there was a Whataburger, I think it was like a chili burger or something, $6.39. It's nuts.
That's
Lucky
wild.
number.
Does that make? Did you buy the burger? Did you buy the?
Yeah, I
cheeseburger?
did buy the burger.
Heck
So,
yeah.
but yeah, so like I think we were talking about tattoos. If I ever got a tattoo, it would be the Roman numerals of 639, like on the inside of my arm or something. But then I probably won't see the number anymore. So that's probably why I haven't done it. But yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Most, I guess. So tell me really fast when you first picked up a camera.
Probably in, I want to say maybe high school. I shot film in high school. I used to hide in the dark room and scare people.
What was the first picture you took where people were like, "Hey, you should actually run with this"? Like,
maybe when I started shooting like concerts a little bit in undergrad, like we had a photography clinic or a course part of our curriculum, and like that was, I think, as I was in school for graphic design, and I was kind of starting to have writer's block, so to speak, kind of a similar deal, and a part of it was my process was flawed. Like, I just didn't brainstorm properly. But then I picked up a camera, and a camera allowed me to whatever I wanted to shoot, whatever I was interested in, I could make pictures of it. And that was like, music was big at that time. And it was the first thing I'm like, oh man, I can get into places, or I can shoot my favorite artists, or I can, I can't remember who said the quote, but like a camera allows you to steal experiences. Like, it gives you immediately credibility. Like, you can walk in a room with a whole bunch of people you don't know, and you pull up a camera, and they just either they like react to you or they don't care, right? Or you can make some fake press flash and you're good to go. So I think probably shooting those early concerts, and that was the realization that I could create something instantaneously and get that immediate feedback and that immediate enjoyment or inspiration. But it also, whatever I wanted, I could take a picture of. And then I figured out if I could just be technically good at the deal, I could shoot whatever.
most memorable photo of 2024?
Ooh, 2024, probably there's an image I took of Kate Saunier at Reno. And I remember I was trying to like do it on the sneak because that's a 10-day rodeo, and I didn't want anyone else to see what I was doing. And I remember like, and it was a cool deal because the way that light falls in the deal, you have to, the sun shoots through this one section where the bleachers are separated, and it creates like this really cool, like the bucking horse, like the light will be cool on the horse, but then it's really dark and moody behind it. And it's like a picture that I need to print. And I remember taking the picture, and in that moment, I'm like, I'm going to the NFR. Like I knew that was the image I needed to be good enough. And I made a bunch of really good images at Reno that I used, but I knew that that was the picture that would get me there. Are you showing them now?
No, I'm showing him a bonus last question from one of our
bonus questions. That's right.
Yeah.
We got questions. But yeah, that photo of Kate Sonnier was special. Like I hadn't taken a picture like that, and I knew it was a good photo because I sent it to a couple Getty photographers, and they were like people that I was starting to work with as colleagues that I considered easily some of the best photographers that I had ever come in contact with. And when I sent it to them and they were like, "Dude, you need to print that," I knew that I had like a world-class image.
That was one of like my thoughts. I was like, I wonder if there was a certain photo throughout the year where he was like, I got it. Like this is the three-peat right here. This photo's what seals the deal.
When I showed it to Bob Thompson, he's like, oh, like he turned into a little kid. I was fired up. I was like, there we go. We got a good one.
So,
who's asking?
I'm not sure who's asking.
It says.
Lord.
I'm not gonna
read
these.
It's a goofy name, so we're not gonna put this out on the way.
But shout out to you. Anyway.
Yeah, shout out to you. You probably know who you are. But they say, who inspired him to photo rodeo? So who got you into rodeo?
It was weird. I don't know if anyone inspired me to shoot rodeo. It was just one. Actually, it was one of my old coworkers that I worked at the theme park. He told me about, like just some local stuff in the area. Like I had taken my now sister-in-law. I had taken this girl to a bull ride, and then my brother ended up marrying her sister. So that's how we ended up being related. But that was after we had, hung out. But I just remember that first rodeo of being there, and it's raining, and I'm standing under this tent trying to stay dry. Again, I always end up in a tent and it's raining with cowboys, but I didn't know any of these guys. But there was no fear there. Like I knew I was okay. And I remember seeing like the bulls and stuff, and I had never really seen a bull up close, and like they're all different sizes and different colors, and they all react to you differently. And like I'm taking pictures, no one's stopping me. And it was just like a minefield of like different photos, or like how many different ways can you shoot it, all these different angles. And I took some decent pictures. There's still some pictures that I remember looking at from that first day that don't suck. But I just remember it was like a paradise of just, there's an image everywhere you look. And there's not an image everywhere I look now, but there's still that same kind of feeling of there's always something to shoot. At a rodeo, at a Brandon, at a whatever, there's a cool image hidden somewhere. And I think that was just like, that was what got me hooked. There was always a new image that I could make or wanted to make. Or now, like in the past, I would see like this vivid image of like, oh, I want to create this image. Now it's more of like capturing a feeling, or like captivating or capturing emotion. So it's like, okay, I feel what this image, I'll know when this image feels. Kind of like that image I just talked to you about. It's just like, yeah, that's it. Like, but you don't know until you get it. Now you're just chasing the feeling. And so I would say it's probably like similar to a musician, when they get the right tone, or they kind of thinking like, okay, yeah, that's it. Or
shaping the right hat.
Like a hat shaper. Like I remember the first time when I was learning to tinker with hats, and when I could actually feel the wire move in a straw hat, like, okay, now I know how to manipulate that. Or like, and then you move to a felt, and it's a whole different kind of process. There's some similarities, but that material moves differently. So like, but when you feel the moment, you're like, oh, that was it, kind of thing. That's exciting.
You're really a like true testament to, you don't have to come from a background of it to make it up to the top.
I think, and I think any kind of genre to anything needs foreigners, I guess. Because when you've lived it your whole life, you almost take a lot of things for granted. And like me being an outsider, like there was always something new. Like even today, I'm like, oh, I've never seen a saddle like that, or or like that's a different way to, you know, wear a hat or shape a hat, or that's a different. I would have never. I remember when I gave a buddy a boot jack. He was just complaining about his feet hurt and he couldn't get his boots off. I'm like, here you go. And like that moment changed his life. I'm like, well, boot jacks, an old piece of technology. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think sometimes being from the outside, you see more things and appreciate them in a different way. And then I think when you can convey that, then the people who have had it their whole lives, then they appreciate it a little bit more too.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, any last?
Closing thought?
Man, I'm pretty simple. Just, you know, keep having fun, keep enjoying life. You got just as much time in the day as Michael Jackson, so do something with it.
All right, period. Huh?
There's always a picture, shoot it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always a picture. Best camera is the one you got with you. And I'm sure you got a cell phone, so take a picture of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you meet someone you like, take the picture.
That's right.
Gotta remember what they look like.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we got you on camera now.
Yeah, the world can see.
There you go.
All right.
All right, guys. Well,
Yeah. Thank you everybody for being here. Click. Thank you for making a little journey over here. We really appreciate everything that you do for us and being willing to do things like this. This is number 2 episode for Click. Hopefully we make it a 3, just like all of his buckles.
There you go.
But yeah, stay up to date with everything that we're doing. Like I said, this is really new for us to have cameras in a studio and all this stuff. So we're super excited. So hopefully we should be getting them knocked out again a little bit quicker. But yeah, Lena, do you want to run through all of our social media where they can keep up with us?
You can find us on Beneath the Hat on Facebook and Instagram, and then hopefully we'll have a YouTube up and running pretty soon. And you can find Click at
ClickThompson.com. On Instagram, it's Click Thompson. Facebook, all that. Snapchat, I'm pretty slow, but I might add you eventually. If you're weird, I won't add you, but you know.
has a few different web domains. If you can find the right one, good for you.
That's true. I got some pretty cool URLs that go to my website as well. So shout out to that.
if you want an American hat like Clicks, look up doublerhathouse.com.
Got you covered.
Oh, yeah.
They got it.
Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you guys so much. And like always, we'll see you all in the next one.
Bow, bow.